What we're dealing with today in the digital world is not an accident, not random, and definitely not new. The architecture behind modern influence systems actually began long before social media, long before TikTok, and long before the internet itself. It began in the Cold War when psychological influence became recognized as a strategic domain of power. During the Cold War, the United States, the Soviet Union, and NATO weren't just competing over weapons and borders. They were competing over information, perception, and human behavior. This is where we see the birth of psychological operations, propaganda science, mass behavior modeling, narrative engineering, perception manipulation, and group influence dynamics. The Cold War never ended. It simply changed battlefields, from land, air, and sea to the human mind. NATO eventually formalized the shift by defining a new strategic concept: cognitive warfare. Not warfare of weapons, but of perception, belief, identity, and behavior. Cognitive warfare is built on an understanding that if you shape how a person thinks, you do not need to control anything else. Their decisions will fall into alignment automatically. Fast forward to today. You're not watching the Cold War. You're living inside its digital descendant. Every platform we use now is a real-time behavioral laboratory. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, X, Facebook, live stream platforms. They all run on the same underlying principle the Cold War architects began developing: influence systems, perception steering, and predictive behavior modeling. Only now, instead of leaflets or radio broadcast, we have machine learning, systems analyzing micro behaviors at scale, how long you pause, what your face reacts to, what you rewatch, what you ignore, what triggers an emotional spike, and what pulls you into a loop. This is not the surveillance of who you are, this is modeling of what you will do next. The same way Cold War strategists tried to predict nations, platforms now predict individuals. This is behavioral econometrics, reinforcement learning, and cognitive state inference technology perfected over 70 years of evolution. So when you receive a strange comment, when a video suddenly spikes, when certain people respond aggressively, this is not randomness. It is your behavioral model interacting with a larger predictive architecture. Humans think they're choosing freely, but most of what we react to online is algorithmically positioned in front of us because the system has already calculated our likelihood of engagement. This is not a conspiracy. This is documented foundation of Cold War psychological operations, NATO's modern cognitive domain research, DARPA's narrative networks, China's information dominance doctrine, Russia's reflexive control theory, and AI-driven behavioral prediction systems used by every major platform today. What we're experiencing is the continuation of history through technology. And this is why digital sovereignty is essential. This is why understanding your cognitive environment matters more than ever. And this is why I created the 2026 Oracle Blueprint session, because the next era belongs to people who can see the architecture, decode the feedback loops, identify the influence vectors, protect their attention, guide their own cognition, and build sovereign digital identities. We are creating futures outside the algorithmic matrix. If you feel yourself awakening to this, and if you feel yourself rising into a higher understanding, then the Oracle Blueprint is where you belong. You can explore the Blueprint or any of my offerings at tailoredhealingcollective.com. So remember, staying coded and stay sovereign. This has been a Tailored Healing Transmission.